All right, everybody, thank you for joining us here at the First Alert Desk on Atlanta News First Plus. We are taking you out live right now to APD headquarters, where really just moments from now we're expected to hear from Atlanta police as they react to what they described as a weekend of targeted attacks. Now, if you haven't been following us on the Atlanta News First .com or Atlanta News First in our newscaster app. We first brought this to you over the weekend when these incidents did happen. We sent that push alert out to all you Atlanta News First app users so you could stay up to date on that. But today is more of APD's opportunity to speak out. Now, we don't know for sure if they are remarking on these specific incidents that I'm about to get into, but they did say that they would address weekend attacks, and of course those timelines do match up. So let's get into this. I'm going to pull out give you a wide shot as we wait for Atlanta police to start talking. They have called this news conference for 11:30. It is now 11:30. So really any moment now they could appear, at which point we'll take you live through the coverage. Speaking of these weekend incidents, I'm going to try to pull up the photos that we received into the newsroom, but this is in regards to two incidents, one in southeast Atlanta, the other in southwest Atlanta. I'll start with the first, involving incendiary devices that were found at the old Atlanta Police Training Academy. Now, as you could see from the photos that we first brought to you online, you could see the heavy damage to APD motorcycles, the surrounding parking lot area where this fire broke out. Now, fire crews did respond early Saturday morning. They managed to put out the fire, but a significant amount of damage was done. And really the most shocking part of all that was the incendiary devices in all of this. The fire officials did say they found what they believe to be incendiary devices. It is unknown if this was a case of arson at this time. That investigation does continue, but it comes at the same time of another incident involving APD vehicles. That happening along Memorial Drive in southwest Atlanta, so about 6 miles from the first incident. That's where Atlanta police say they found 3 vehicles with damage. And they are also investigating that, as you can imagine. There's no clear clarification on whether these two incidents are connected. That's something we hope to learn here in this news conference. Again, the only thing they told us at this time was that they called a news conference to discuss safety and targeted attacks over the weekend. We do know over the weekend that there were 2 vandalism incidents that I just mentioned involving APD motorcycles and APD vehicles. We are expecting them to possibly touch upon that, but they haven't confirmed that that is specifically what they will discuss. So as we wait for this news conference to begin, I'm going to try to pull up those photos for you so you can look through them and have some better context as we take you to live remarks. And I do believe that is Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens. So he is starting this news conference surrounded by staff with Atlanta Police Chief.
Morning.
So let's take a listen.
I hope that you and your families had an enjoyable and safe, happy 4th of July as we come out of a busy weekend in our city. I wanted to speak to all of you directly about a few things related to public safety. Overall, we had a safe and enjoyable holiday weekend in Atlanta with no major incidents impacting the public. Thank you to the hardworking men and women of the Atlanta Police Department, the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department, EMS, Grady, our Department of Public Works, ATL, DOT, and so many other partners and our Emergency Preparedness Department, and all our partners for a successful and safe Peachtree Road Race, the world's largest 10K that was held just yesterday without incident in our city. Our city is safer. Violent crime is down in our city, And as of Friday, we are down 35% in homicides this year versus last year. But unfortunately, however, our public safety facilities and property were the target of an extremely violent and dangerous attack on Saturday, July 1st. And there were several other destructive acts of extreme vandalism on public and private property that occurred that we have reason to believe are related to the construction of the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center in DeKalb County. As reported by local media and various social media accounts, the current Atlanta Police Training Center at 180 Southside Industrial Parkway was set ablaze in the early morning hours of Saturday, July 1st. The targeted attack utilized extremely dangerous homemade incendiary devices to set a fire to the building and completely destroyed 8 police motorcycles. Thankfully, no one was hurt and no one was injured. As shocking as this was not an isolated incident of violence. This group actually took credit for these incidents, and they stated, as I quote, "We are vengeful wingnuts with nothing left to lose." They stated, "We are vengeful wingnuts with nothing left to lose." I want to urge the people of Atlanta to stay vigilant. If you see something, say something. There were several other incidents which Atlanta Police Chief Darren Schierbaum and Atlanta Fire Rescue Chief Rod Smith, they will describe in further detail in just a few moments. Collectively, these have been some of the most significant attacks on public safety in our city and in our nation over the past year. Yes, right here in our own backyard in Atlanta. Folks, this is serious. This investigation into who is behind these criminal attacks is ongoing, and we are working with both state and federal law enforcement agencies to find those responsible and hold them accountable. I want to be very clear and unequivocal that violent attacks on public safety facilities or personnel or private citizens or private property are completely unacceptable in our city and will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. There is no reason or excuse for crime that destroys public property or private property and endangers the lives of innocent people in our neighborhoods and communities for any reason whatsoever. For months, some have accused our public safety personnel of hindering or restricting protests or gathering around the city, including the so-called Week of Action events that were organized by citizens who have concerns about the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. I don't want there to be any confusion. This administration and our public safety personnel 100% support the rights of those who choose to peacefully gather and peacefully voice their opinions and their views. For those who gathered last week to share their concerns and voice their opinions at Brownwood Park in East Atlanta, we respect your rights to do so within the city's rules and the park's rules and laws. However, groups or individuals that have the extreme intention to intimidate, to threaten, to participate in acts of violence and intentionally break the law, that will not be tolerated. Criminals are hiding in the middle of peaceful protests, and sometimes they are doing their own separate acts of violence. Some of them are career arsonists and vandals from across the nation. Local activists have been alerted to this numerous times. Yet, after all the protests and the actions and events over the past few months, 0 incidents of excessive force have been found. The men and women of APD have been on 12-hour shifts and have shown tremendous commitment to professionalism and to their training. The safety of the majority will not be compromised by those who have a dangerous and irresponsible approach to communicating their beliefs or their concerns. The people who committed this violence, whoever they may be, are not peaceful dissenters. These are the actions of blatantly outrageous, dangerous, and violent criminals. When you engage in violence, you put others in harm's way. So let me be clear. We will not allow anyone to do that in our city without repercussions. The men and women of the Atlanta Police Department and Atlanta Fire Rescue Department serve to protect the safety and the rights of all residents and visitors to our city, regardless of their position on issues. For law-abiding citizens who choose to exercise their right to peacefully gather, or who are simply out to enjoy our great city, know that when you see City of Atlanta public safety personnel, they are there to protect you and not to limit your rights. They are there to ensure that you are going to have and enjoy your day in our city and return home safely. So thank you for your attention to this. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Shearbaum and Chief Smith, and they will be happy to answer other questions, and we'll be happy to answer those questions that you may have. Thank you. Chief Smith.
Thank you, sir. On Saturday, July 1st, at approximately 2:15 in the morning, Atlanta Fire Rescue responded to a possible working fire at the address of 180 Southside Industrial Parkway. Upon arrival, our units discovered that there were several motorcycles on fire that belonged to APD. We further determined that incendiary devices were utilized to set these fires, and it is now under investigation as arson. Atlanta Fire Rescue has partnered with APD and ATF to begin the investigation, and it is currently underway.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. Morning, everyone. Appreciate your time today and taking this important message to your viewers and your readers. The Fire Chief referred to a fire that started at our precinct at 180 Southside Industrial. This is a dual-purpose facility. Our training center is housed there most recently, and then our special operations precinct is there. This is the precinct that has a key role in protecting large-scale events such as the Peachtree Road Race, which unfolded yesterday in our city. But prior to that, about 1 hour prior to the event at 180 Southside Industrial, we had another precinct that was targeted in the city. This is our Path Force precinct on Memorial Drive in the 800 block of Memorial. These officers patrol the Beltline, which many of you all visit frequently. At that location, we had multiple windows broken on police vehicles. We believe the intent was to set those vehicles on fire as well. You saw the photograph of the red fusee on the ground. That has been used by this group in the past to set police vehicles on fire. That was dropped when a citizen observed the criminal acts in progress and actually interrupted the crimes that were occurring there. So we believe that the fire attack that was planned on Memorial Drive was thwarted by an observant citizen. A short time later, about an hour, we had the fire at our facility on Southside Industrial. Now, while 8 motorcycles were destroyed, there were 40 police motorcycles at that location, belonging to the Atlanta Police Department, MARTA, as well as the Fulton County Sheriff. We know now in the early stages of this investigation, the intent was not for 8 motorcycles to be destroyed. The intent was for all 40 to be destroyed. And had all those 40 vehicles caught on fire, that police facility would have been gravely damaged, if not destroyed, in the fire. And we are thankful for our police officers that saw this unfolding and likely interrupted that plan from being able to play out in its fullness. This attack at 180 Southside Industrial and on Memorial was not only an attack on the men and women of this police department, but it was an attack on every neighborhood that this department protects and every visitor that comes to our city to enjoy Atlanta. The Peachtree Road Race the day before, on yesterday's date, could easily have been impacted by this group on Saturday had they been successful in carrying out the full intent of that arson attack. But this was not all that transpired over the weekend. We know from the postings of this group, their intent to stop the Public Safety Training Center has left the democratic process of the City Council and is now moving to intimidate and force out contractors that are committed to building the Public Safety Training Center. This weekend, during the week of action, 3 different locations, private residences, were targeted. Tires were flattened on a contractor's home. A home of an executive for Brass Glory was significantly vandalized in another jurisdiction. And then we had another location where graffiti was used to intimidate. And then yesterday morning, as many of you were covering the Peachtree Road Race, slightly after 7 o'clock in the morning, a location at 418 McDonough Boulevard belonging to Brent Scarborough's company, which is a key provider of work on this training center, was also targeted and attacked, and equipment was set on fire at that location. These acts are of a small, determined group that does not represent a wider population. These are small individuals from across the country that are using violence and fear and intimidation to stop a public safety training center that trains firefighters and police officers to save lives. And the effort of law enforcement is committed to stop this. A number of arrests have been made in the past that has diminished other actions. And this group cannot hide behind the dark of night or the home address and feel that they are not going to be held accountable. I have standing at this podium with me today representatives from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the ATF, and we are also partnered with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. These agencies are working together to determine where federal laws violated this weekend and ensure that the full expertise of American law enforcement is present right here in Atlanta to stop this group across the region, stop their ability to impact the public safety network of Atlanta, and hold them accountable. And so thank you very much, SAC Gibbons and Assistant SAC Whistler. We appreciate your support and the dedication of your men and women who've been present throughout the weekend in our city investigating these crimes. I'm also pleased to announce that Atlanta Crime Stoppers has raised a award to $10,000 for anybody that has information on the 2 attacks at police facilities in Atlanta, the attack on the construction site, or any private citizen that is working to advance the public safety of Atlanta. Please give us your information so you can help be a partner in solving these crimes. And at this time, I'd like to turn the podium over to Special Agent in Charge Ben Gibbons of the ATF.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. ATF, we are working hand in hand with our partners here, with the Atlanta Police Department, Atlanta Fire Department, the FBI, and the GBI to solve these crimes and bring these individuals to justice. ATF views arson as a crime of violence, plain no stop. With that said, this compromises public safety, and that's why we make sure that we're involved and we're providing resources necessary to bring these crimes to an end. We have provided our certified fire investigators, which are special agents who have received advanced training in cause and origin as it pertains to fires, as well as providing some of the evidence to our laboratory services for processing and examination and analysis. With that being said, we are also offering an additional reward for information that could lead to the arrest of these individuals committing these heinous acts. And we're doing a $5,000 reward as of right now. And let me provide that number for the tip line. ATF tip line is 1-888-283-8477. Again, 1-888-283-8477 or 1-888-ATF-TIPS. That's all. Thank you very much, Chief.
All right, so you've heard from Chief Shearbaum, Chief Smith, as well as ATF SAC Gibbons, and of course we have the FBI here as well. We're all in partnership. I did want to make clear that this construction site is not an Atlanta Public Safety Training Center site. This is a whole nother site where this contractor is working, and yet these individuals have burned up construction equipment on a totally separate site. So that's a private piece of property and on a private construction site. So again, this violence expands beyond the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. So now we will answer your questions.
Mary, if I can ask just two quick questions. First of all, how were they able to get onto these different properties without anyone being able to see them or stop them? I know you mentioned one citizen was able to stop them at one location. And also, you did mention the difference between basically the extremists and the peaceful protesters. How can you differentiate between the two, and how are they able to infiltrate some of the peaceful protests?
So I'll answer the second question, and then I'll have Chief maybe talk about the incident and what time of day it might have occurred and any other details related to it that he can express, as this is an ongoing investigation. But the second question that you asked is an important one about how are arsonists, vandals, violent actors able to be alongside peaceful protesters. You have individuals that will burn up construction equipment, light a fire to police vehicles, and then have a bouncy house party the next day with, peaceful protesters at a park. So they will go to a park by day, and then by night they're burning up police equipment or setting fires or trying to destroy construction equipment. So these individuals are trying to use the guise of peaceful protests that maybe some local Atlantans may actually be engaged in a desired conversation about their views on public safety. But these individuals have different views than those folks. These individuals are anarchists. They want to destroy. So they are hiding in the midst. You will see them change clothes, as we've seen in March. We've seen them throw rancid meat at commercial properties, even at a lieutenant of the Atlanta Police Department. So these individuals are alongside, these arsonists, these criminals are alongside peaceful protesters, and sometimes the peaceful protesters are aware of it, and sometimes they are not. We have made it clear to local activists that we know and individuals that tend to be peaceful. We're letting them know that we are aware that there are individuals that are in our city that have committed crimes across the nation, and that they are on your social media or in your network saying they're coming to your event to do the same. So when we give you that heads up as a local organizer, you should take that heads up and also see something, say something, as we're asking any other citizen to do. When peaceful protesters, when organizers are not, utilizing their best judgment, then bad things can happen with them being alongside them. And it makes it real tough for APD to know who was the one with the dirty hand, so to speak. And so that's what the message that we want to get out to the public is that these individuals mean harm, and you don't want to be around them or associated with them. When you are, it makes it difficult to tell who's who. Chief, you want to answer the question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So the group that struck this weekend is a dedicated group of professional anarchists, and I know that may seem a contradiction in terms. So this is a group of individuals who don't play by any rules and will go to any lengths they need to carry out. And this is their words. We will wage a campaign of violence and destruction. And so what we saw this weekend was part of that campaign. So we don't want to disclose exactly how the attacks were carried out. That is part of the investigation. But they do not play by any rules, and they put others at risk when they do these attacks, our police officers, the citizens of the city. So once we make the arrest, some of that will become more clear. We have made other arrests from this exact same group. They will not escape law enforcement. This is a group who is on borrowed time, and soon they will be held accountable, and Atlanta will see who has been threatening their city and harming their first responder network.
Mayor, do you support domestic terrorism charges for those who are already arrested and potentially these who could be arrested?
I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police officer, I'm not a prosecutor. What I support is that criminals be arrested, so they're off the street, and then they go through the judicial process to be found guilty or innocent. I want processes to play out. I don't want any uncertainty that violence brings into our community. So whatever stops the violence is what I'm in favor of. The police will arrest you, and the DA and others will make the charges, and the judge will make the decision on your sentencing, your guilt, your innocence. But we're looking for this all to be resolved with individuals having whatever charges are necessary to make sure that they're off the streets of Atlanta creating this violence.
Mayor, can you tell us what the total cost of the damages, if you guys have any assessment of what this is all going to cost?
Yeah, I don't have that number right in front of me. What's a police motorcycle cost, Chief?
It's right around $35,000, and then once you outfit us a little bit more, so do that times 8. That's going to put you in the ballpark.
Yeah, and that's not even including the rest of the smoke and damage and other things. And the broken windows on the police car, et cetera.
The actors this weekend, do you think they're all connected to each incident? Like when they've done construction equipment and
Chief, you can answer.
the motorcycles, is this all the same group going from each location?
This is a very small group. The facts will lead us where it leads us, but there's indications that this was likely committed by the exact same individuals. But we will let and see where the facts take us.
That message you received, was that would have been very clear that this was related to the public safety center? And was that an email or what?
This is a site that's commonly used by this group. This isn't the only one. We've shared one with you. There's been many others where they've taken responsibility for other attacks that's laid out across this city, this region, and actually this country. So we shared one with you today, but that was one that just gives their clear intent of their willingness to go to any extreme to be able to stop a project that is so meaningful to every resident that calls this city home.
Is it like a social media site or like a 4chan or a chat room? Can you give us more details?
Yeah, I'm not sure the specific platform it's on. It's one that's readily available. They use frequently to be able to communicate their intent, and remember they're trying to stop people through fear and intimidation, and so they're using this to magnify their efforts.
And that made it clear that the site's sort of out, that these are all related.
Yeah, there's other reasons as well, but they're not shy in taking credit for what they've done.
Chief, could you comment on the extent to which this may have an impact on contractors if they're being intimidated by folks who destroy equipment? And I'm asking specifically because there's a video on social media showing protesters in front of a contractor's house at a place called Atlas Contracting, where the contractor appears to be telling them, we got out of this Cop City business because y'all broke all our windows.
All right, just think about if someone didn't want you to go to work today to be a reporter, and they threaten your family, they threaten your children, they destroyed your car, destroyed your house. What that would make you feel, right? Would you become willing to report the truth to Atlanta today? They know this is a tactic that we make families feel afraid, and we threaten children, and we attack homes. If they're going to attack the police precinct, you're going to attack the home. That is their intent. But we know that the individuals that are committed to the public training center see the bigger picture, and they see the good that is going to get done to that. This effort of fear is not going to succeed, and the coalition of law enforcement, from the GBI to the FBI to the ATF to the Atlanta Police Department and a slew of regional agencies, is going to stop that campaign so it doesn't happen and individuals do not leave the project.
Have you documented incidents in addition to the construction site, the site that you showed us, of folks damaging or intimidating individual contractors connected to the project?
We do. A lot of those are occurring across the state and not necessarily inside of Atlanta. So we will let those agencies speak on that. And the Georgia Bureau of Investigation is the lead investigating entity on this, and they are aggressively investigating all of those acts of intimidation.
Mayor, some of the protesters and opposers of the training center have begun collecting signatures in the hope of having a referendum put in the November ballot. What's your reaction to that? What's your comment on that? Will you allow them to do what they're doing right now and possibly have this in the referendum?
Yeah, absolutely. The referendum process is one that's legally documented. It's in the city code, and anybody can attempt to get the petition going and get the necessary signatures. We ask that they do so with honesty and truth, collect the signatures from real people with sharing the truth about what they are looking to do. And so I don't personally believe they're going to be successful. I believe that based on what we know about the citizens of Atlanta, they are supportive of the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. They have to get voters to sign, and voters of Atlanta, and we know what the voters of Atlanta think about it. They want more public safety public safety officials to be trained, want them to be trained together with police and fire. They want to make sure that this project is successful so that we can have all of the service that we need for the citizens of Atlanta. So we know that this is going to be unsuccessful if it's done honestly. And so we're making sure that we continue to monitor the process, but there's no one in law enforcement or my administration that would ever get in the way of them doing their constitutional right to have a petition. Thank you.